Bottled Kandor. The single most repeated theory about Man of Tomorrow says Brainiac is already carrying a piece of Krypton around in a jar, and the evidence is hiding in plain sight. Lars Eidinger is confirmed as Brainiac, the main threat of the film, which arrives July 9, 2027, marking the character's first appearance in a major DC motion picture. In classic DC lore, Brainiac does not just attack planets. He shrinks and steals their cities first, sealing them in glass bottles before he destroys whatever is left. The most famous of those stolen cities is Kandor, the Kryptonian capital. So the theory goes like this. Brainiac bottled Kandor before Krypton was destroyed, which means he is carrying a living, breathing population of Kryptonians, contemporaries of both Superman and Supergirl. That is not just fan noise either. DC Studios released a first look at Brainiac's Kandor city ahead of the film, and fans read that reveal as a signal the bottled city concept is fully in play. Brainiac himself was created by writer Otto Binder and artist Al Plastino back in 1958, and his defining trait has always been collecting knowledge by collecting cities. If Kandor really does come back full of Kryptonians, the theory stretches even further, into the comic New Krypton arc, where a restored Kryptonian city creates a whole second superpowered population on Earth. James Gunn has confirmed he read nearly every Brainiac story to build this version, using bits and pieces rather than adapting one arc directly, and that is why this theory matters more than any other. It ties Brainiac's casting straight to the engine of Superman's origin. If it is true, the sequel stops being a villain of the week story and becomes a Krypton resurrection story. Forced alliance. For months, fans argued Superman would be forced to team up with Lex Luthor, and then James Gunn walked out and confirmed the exact thing they had been saying. In his own words, it is a story about Lex Luthor and Superman having to work together, to a certain degree, against a much, much bigger threat. Gunn went a step further and called it as much a Lex movie as it is a Superman movie, which hands Nicholas Holt's Luthor genuine co-lead status rather than a villain cameo. That much bigger threat is Brainiac, an intelligence that outclasses even Luthor at his most calculating. What makes this one count is the timing. It was a circulating fan theory long before Gunn addressed it, so this is a theory he validated rather than killed. And it tells you something structural about the whole film. The enemy of my enemy setup is the spine the rest of the story hangs on, which means Luthor survives the fallout of the first movie with enough freedom and enough leverage to actually matter. Whether that alliance is genuine cooperation or just two predators circling the same prey, Gunn is keeping to himself. New Krypton. If Brainiac really is carrying a bottled Kryptonian city, the next leap fans make is that Superman is about to stop being the last of his kind. This theory takes the Kandor reveal and pushes it straight into the comic New Krypton storyline, where a restored Kryptonian city repopulates a chunk of Superman's lost people. Restoring Kandor would give the DCU a reason to put Kryptonian society on screen, introducing characters well beyond just Superman and Supergirl. And fans are quick to point out the obvious complication. A bottled city full of Kryptonians means Brainiac might not be the only superpowered force unleashed in this film. Some of those survivors could be hostile, setting up additional threats that have nothing to do with Brainiac himself. The fact that Millie Alcock's Supergirl is confirmed to appear only feeds the theory, since fans read her presence as thematically tied to a Kryptonian survivors plot. None of this is confirmed, but the logic is hard to ignore. This is the theory that raises the stakes of the Kandor reveal from a curiosity in a jar to a civilization that could either save Earth or threaten it. It also offers a reason Supergirl's appearance might be far more than fan service. Luthor's Warsuit. Set photos showed Lex Luthor flying in green and purple battle armor, and one tiny logo on the chest set off a theory about who is really funding him. Gunn revealed the first look at Luthor's Warsuit, worn practically by Nicholas Hoult, marking the first time the iconic armor has appeared in a live-action DC movie. In the comics, the Warsuit gives Luthor superhuman strength, flight, and force fields, and it first appeared in Action Comics number 544 back in June 1983. Here is where fans got to work. They spotted the Argus logo sitting on the suit's chest, which fueled a theory that the government agency Argus is the one supplying, or at least sanctioning, Luthor's tech. Set photos also show Superman trading blows with the war-suited Luthor, which suggests the alliance is anything but clean, and the two still come to blows on screen. The suit being a practical build rather than pure visual effects only made fans more confident in what they were looking at. The Warsuit confirms Luthor is a physical threat this time, not just a schemer in a boardroom, and that little Argus detail hints the government's relationship with both Luthor and Superman is murkier than any handshake alliance lets on. By the way, if you're enjoying this so far, I post videos like this all the time, and a subscribe would genuinely help the channel out. Thanks. Supergirl Connection. Millie Alcock's Supergirl is confirmed for the film, and fans think her role ties directly into Brainiac's collection of stolen worlds. Alcock will appear as Kara Zor-El after her own solo film, a return confirmed both by Gunn and by Alcock being spotted on set. The theory connects her straight to Brainiac's bottled Kryptonian city, since both Kara and that city are tied to the same dying world. Marketing leaned into it, teasing a major Brainiac connection for Supergirl ahead of the film. From there, fans speculate Kara has personal stakes in the bottled city, especially if it holds people she actually knew. The appearance is locked in. The personal connection is the part still living in fan extrapolation. Either way, her cameo gives the whole Kryptonian survivors theory an emotional anchor, and it ties her solo film neatly into the sequel's plot. Green Lantern setup. Aaron Pierre's Jon Stewart is jumping straight from his own TV show into this movie, and fans think it is the moment the DCU's grand plan finally clicks into place. Pierre will reprise Jon Stewart in his second DCU appearance, following the series Lanterns, and the crossover is part of Gunn's stated vision of integrating DC films and television into one seamless story universe. That is what makes this a theory about the architecture itself. The idea is that Man of Tomorrow is the proof of concept. The moment a television character carries continuity directly into a tentpole film without missing a beat. Fans go further and speculate that Jon Stewart's presence sets up a wider cosmic threat response, which fits a Brainiac-scale invasion perfectly. Reports note Pierre's Green Lantern look could differ from his Lanterns appearance, which has fans theorizing about a time gap or an upgrade between the two. The casting and the integration plan are confirmed. What it all means for the bigger picture is the speculative part. If the television-to-film handoff works here, it validates Gunn's entire interconnected model in one stroke. Pocket prison. Lex Luthor ended the first film locked up, so fans had to explain how he is suited up and free in the sequel, and the answer they landed on is a pocket universe. The first Superman established Luthor creating pocket universes by triggering tiny Big Bangs, which he used as a private prison dimension. Set photos suggest Luthor does not stay imprisoned long, and that he even travels to a sandy off-world planet at some point in the story. So the theory is straightforward. Luthor uses his own pocket universe tech to escape custody before the Alliance plot even begins, which bridges the gap between his first film imprisonment and his sequel freedom. The tech is confirmed from the first movie. The escape itself is the fan reasoning. It is the kind of continuity puzzle the trailers will eventually have to address, because somehow the jailed villain becomes a free co-lead. Satan's Fool. The actor playing Brainiac told the press his villain is the incarnation of Satan, and that single quote rewired how fans expect the character to behave. Lars Eidinger put it directly, saying Brainiac is described as the incarnation of Satan. I find that almost Shakespearean. The king, the fool, there are so many parallels for me. Eidinger frames Brainiac against Superman as the Ubermensch, which casts the conflict as a philosophical duel rather than just a fistfight. That has fans theorizing Brainiac will be a verbose, theatrical, manipulative villain rather than a cold machine, given Eidinger's deep stage background. He has credited that theater work and its embrace of heightened, expressive performance as directly useful for playing Brainiac. Fans read the king and the fool framing as a hint that Brainiac will tempt or psychologically manipulate Superman and Luthor rather than simply attack them. It helps to know who Eidinger is. He is best known in Europe for the German series Babylon Berlin and his stage work, plus film roles in Noah Baumbach's White Noise and Jay Kelly, which makes Man of Tomorrow his blockbuster debut. Pair that with Gunn assembling this Brainiac from bits and pieces across nearly every Brainiac comic rather than one arc, and fans expect a version unlike anything we have seen. The King and the Fool reading suggests a Brainiac who performs and provokes, who treats his conquest of worlds as theater. That would be a sharp tonal departure from the cold, robotic Brainiac of the animated films. In short, this is a theory about tone, and it suggests the Alliance is facing a seductive, intellectual antagonist rather than a brute. Phantom Zone card. The first film leaned hard on a Kryptonian prison dimension, and fans think Man of Tomorrow brings it back as a weapon against Brainiac. The DCU's first Superman established a Kryptonian pocket dimension prison used to hold dangerous threats. So the theory runs that, facing a foe who collects and shrinks entire worlds, the heroes weaponize that dimensional prison to trap Brainiac, or his bottled cities inside it. Fans connect this directly to the Kandor theory, since both ideas revolve around shrinking and storing populations. It would give the Alliance a tool that finally matches Brainiac's own city-stealing tech, fighting fire with fire. This one is entirely fan extrapolation with nothing confirmed, but it is a tidy answer to the question of how anyone beats a being who imprisons worlds for a living. Justice Gang. Man of Tomorrow is shaping up to hold the largest collection of heroes in DCU history, and fans think that crowd is the seed of the universe's first super team. The confirmed returning heroes include Mr. Terrific, played by Edie Gathegi, Hawkgirl, played by Isabella Merced, Guy Gardner, played by Nathan Fillion, and Green Lantern John Stewart, played by Aaron Pierre. Gunn's team has openly called it the largest collection of superheroes in DCU history. The theory is that this gathering formalizes the so-called Justice Gang, the DCU's early super team, assembled against a planet-level Brainiac threat. And that scale is the whole point. A Brainiac invasion is exactly the kind of cosmic emergency that would justify pulling the entire roster together on screen. Fans see this as a deliberate stepping stone toward a full Justice League somewhere down the line. The roster is confirmed. The team formation reading is the speculative leap. Either way, it reframes the film as a team-up tentpole, the DCU's own version of an assembly point, all of it justified by Brainiac's threat level. Seventh villain. A casual Instagram photo from one of the actors quietly confirmed a seventh villain, and fans think the swelling rogues list points to one big betrayal. The film's villain count has grown to 7, a list that includes Lex Luthor, Brainiac, Rick Flag Sr., played by Frank Grillo, the Engineer, played by Maria Gabriela de Faria, and several others. Otis Berg, played by Terrence Rosemore and known as one of Luthor's lackeys, was effectively confirmed through a Frank Grillo Instagram photo before any formal cast sheet ever named him, so the theory follows the math. A villain list this crowded means the on-paper Superman and Luthor alliance almost has to collapse into a multi-way betrayal. Fans fully expect Luthor to flip the moment Brainiac is handled. The villain count is sourced and solid. The betrayal is the fan extrapolation, and it predicts the structural twist of the whole film. An alliance built like this can really only end one way. 2 years later, Gunn confirmed Man of Tomorrow jumps 2 years past the first film, and fans think that gap is hiding events the DCU is deliberately not showing us. Gunn confirmed the film is set in, as he put it, basically real time, roughly 2 years after the first Superman. The theory is that the 2-year jump quietly accounts for off-screen developments, the Lantern series, Supergirl solo film, and other DCU entries, all slotting neatly into the timeline. Fans speculate major events happened in that gap, which would explain why Luthor is free, why the hero roster has grown so large, and why the crossovers suddenly feel earned rather than forced. That positions Man of Tomorrow as a convergence point for the DCU's whole Chapter 1 slate. And the real-time approach has a knock-on effect, because it means the DCU ages right alongside its own release schedule. The time jump is confirmed straight from Gunn. The idea that it is concealing specific off-screen events and threading every other film together is where the fan theorizing takes over. Death of Superman. The biggest theory of all is also the one James Gunn worked hardest to complicate, the theory that Man of Tomorrow ends with Superman dying. The much bigger threat framing from Gunn led fans straight to the most dramatic conclusion imaginable. A Brainiac story big enough to actually kill Superman. The theory draws on the comic Death of Superman arc, and on an abandoned plan from the early 1990s called Superman Reborn, where Superman would die and be reborn inside the bottled city of Kandor. That historical Kandor rebirth plan connects directly to this film's bottled city theory, which is exactly why fans tie a Superman death to the Kandor reveal in the first place. Here's the part that keeps the theory alive. When fans pointed at the comic arc Panic in the Sky as the film's supposed basis, Gunn responded with, "Fun story, but not really, no," and clarified that he read nearly every Brainiac story and used bits and pieces he thought worked best. So Gunn pushed back on the single arc idea without ever confirming or denying a death. He addressed the specifics and left the death question pointedly untouched. Fans also note that a title like Man of Tomorrow carries resurrection and legacy connotations that fit a death and return structure perfectly. This is the closer for a reason. It is the highest stakes theory on the board, and it is the one Gunn has most conspicuously left standing. By debunking the source arc while refusing to address the death itself, he kept the single most dramatic possibility fully in play. If this was worth your time, consider subscribing to keep up with all future uploads. Thanks for watching.